you. Great. Good evening, and welcome to the 2023 Comboating Winter Adventure Series, and tonight's presentation with Arista Holden about the Atlantic Challenge Contest of Seamanship, which is coming to Belfast in July of 2024. I'm Brenda Harrington, Program Librarian at the Belfast Free Library. Thank you all for coming. This is the last program in our 2023 Winter Adventure Series, co-sponsored by the Belfast Free Library and Comboating. I'd like to thank Carol Kuhn and Mickey Green from Comboating for finding another series of wonderful programs this year. And if you've missed any of the previous programs or want to watch them again, they're all available on the Belfast Free Library's YouTube channel. Before we get to Arista's presentation, I want to remind you to please keep your mics muted and to place any questions in the chat, and we will get to them during the Q&A at the end. Next, we'll hear from Neka Oliphant, Board President of Comboating, followed by Comboating member Carol Kuhn, who will introduce Arista. And with that, I'll pass the mic to Neka. Take it away, Neka.
Thank you, Brenda. As Brenda said, my name is Neka Oliphant, and I'm the current president of Comboating. We are so thankful for the library for allowing us to continue to have our winter series with you, and also to Mickey and Carol for continuing this tradition for Comboating. We are a volunteer-run organization, and for the most part, we are run by donations. And so I will also put a link in the chat if you would like to contribute to Comboating in our upcoming year. We do start our new season just after Memorial Day, and we have some fun things that we will be starting in May, and we'll keep you posted on that. Again, we thank you for coming, and we look forward to hearing the presentation from Arista. Carol?
Okay, thank you, Nikki, and thank you, Brenda. It's my pleasure to introduce Arista Holden. Arista is going to tell us about the Comboating. She's going to tell us about the Atlantic Challenge, which is coming to Belfast, July 2024. Arista is the executive director for Atlantic Challenge USA, and she currently runs the Bantry Bay Gig program in Belfast. Arista grew up in Lincolnville, and she was a crew member in the 2002 Atlantic Challenge contest in Rockland. And since then, well, let's just say she's been busy. Arista has been leading trips for Outward Bound, for the National Outdoor Leadership School, the Nova Scotia Sea School, the Wooden Boat School, and many more. She has trained the Atlantic Challenge US team and other Bantry Bay Gig programs since 2012. And there aren't many left in Comboating that will remember we rowed a Bantry Bay Gig from Rockland when we first began in 2000. They are a 38-foot boat, and they have 10 rowers. We had one on loan from Rockland. We also rowed in the Short Ships Regattas in Rockland. Our first Cornish pilot gig, the Belfast, was primarily built by Cliff Mink, Jim Trucks, Mike Hall, and Martha Goodell. They finished the boat in 2002, and the rest is history. But maybe Arista will tell us a little bit about how the Bantry Bay gigs differ from our Cornish pilot gigs, besides the fact that they are based on a boat made in Bantry, Ireland. Arista is really excited about seeing crews from other countries during the contest of the Seamanship Atlantic Challenge. And, well, she's just excited about everything. So let's welcome Arista. Arista?
Thanks. Thanks, Carol.
Okay.
Is it my turn now? Okay, I'm trying to see the screen. Okay, I just see Carol up there.
Well, that's because it's on speaker view. You have to.
Okay.
That's why.
Sorry. Alrighty. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yes, you mentioned a few things. The Atlantic Challenge Contest of Seamanship is coming back to the US. It's been gone since, it's been in other countries every 2 years. since it started in 1986. That was the very first contest in New York City. And I'm going to show you some photos soon. And then the last time it was in the US was in 2002 in Rockland. And we're going to host it next summer. We meant to host it a few years ago, but COVID and everything pushed everything ahead. And it will be from July 21st to 29th in 2024, so a full week. And what that looks like is 11 different teams of young people, ages 15 to 25-ish, will come to Belfast. They'll be from Ireland, Denmark, the Basque Country, Canada, Quebec, there's a French-Canadian team, and Italy, France, Great Britain. There's 11 different teams, mostly from Europe. Normally Russia, the Ukraine, Lithuania, Indonesia can come, but not now. It's too difficult. And we're going to host them at the high school. And the idea behind Atlantic Challenge is for all these young people to get to know each other and form ties and connections and create friendships that will hopefully make our world a more peaceful place. And at the same time, practice teamwork and in the boats and build skills, competency, and preserve all of the wonderful maritime heritage. So I'm going to show you some photos, and that will trigger me what I'm going to say next. Let's share the screen. Can you see it big?
Yes.
Great. So a little bit more about Atlantic Challenge and how it started. What you're seeing is a Bantry Bay gig. It's I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the boat in a minute, but that is the boat that Carol described being, I think it was one of the first boats that started Comboting's program. Humanité was borrowed for a year. That is the same boat, and we use it, and she's going to be in Belfast again. So yeah, Atlantic Challenge was started as a vision of Lance Lee. He's now almost 85. He lives in Rockland. He started the apprentice shop in 1972, the boat building school that's currently in Rockland. And he had an idea in the mid 80s for some kind of matched race with another country. So he proposed the idea to his French colleague, Bernard Caderet, and who was also working to preserve traditional boat building and seamanship in Brittany, France. And they agreed to, sure, let's do a matched race, no prize money. Let's just, the main premise is to get our young people together and preserve seamanship. So Lance said, the apprentice shop will build the first 2 boats for the race, and you pick the design. So Bernard found a French boat. It's a French admiral's gig from the 18th century, so late 1790s. This boat would have been carried on a huge ship and lowered just to deliver the admiral to another ship or to shore in style. It's like the Porsche of rowboats. It didn't have a sailing rig. And yeah, I want to go back. I'm not done talking about that one. And so they had a sailing rig designed for the boat that would have been typical of other boats in that era. So the rig is a dipping lug rig, which requires 4 people to maneuver the sails. So every time the boat changes direction, the sails are dropped and they have to be put on the other side of the mast, raised up again. And it just requires a lot of teamwork. And that was what Lance wanted. He wanted it to be difficult or challenging, or just to require a lot of people maneuvering around each other. But he also wanted it to be elegant and fast and eye-catching. So they came up with this. And one of the reasons why it appealed for Lance to start Atlantic Challenge was he was also involved with Outward Bound, which is another educational sailing program in the late 60s. And he met the founder of that program, Kurt Hahn, during that time. And Kurt Hahn, he also started Outward Bound. He started a series of experiential learning schools in Germany and in Great Britain. And his whole philosophy was that youth need to be able to experience the mountains, nature, working with hand tools, working in community, being able to test their mettle and develop their whole characters. And this was a time of war in Europe when these schools were being started. So it was really influenced by that as well. And in 1947, Hahn wrote an essay called Training For and Through the Sea. And he delivered that speech calling for education reform, saying that I refuse to arrange a world war in every generation to rescue the young from a depressing peace. Let us rather plan their life at school so they can discover and test their hidden powers. Education has no nobler task than to provide the moral equivalent to war. And so part of the initiative of Atlantic Challenge is to create an educational environment where kids get to really test their hidden powers and be challenged and learn to work together. These boats require so much orchestration to maneuver. And then on top of that, having a cross-cultural exchange that's to help form relations with other nations for, decades to come. So that's sort of the background. And yeah, let's move on. Okay, since 1986, where there was just the first 2 boats built, now it's grown to include 16 nations, and it's been hosted in, I think, 9 different countries every 2 years since 1986 until 2018. That was the last one we've had in Northern Ireland. And over 85 gigs have been built. Traditional wooden boats that no fiberglass has come into play in 16 different nations. So this is a picture of them all together, and that's what it's going to look like in Belfast Harbor. And this is in Denmark a few years ago. All right, yeah, that's the original gig. So the original gig is currently in a museum in Ireland. The French went to aid the Irish in this late 1790s in December. There was a big storm, dismasting. They had no hope but to row their remaining crew to shore. The boat, all the crew were captured. The boat was stowed away in a cellar for 150 years and discovered, and it was in perfect condition, and the paint and no rot and everything. And so all the lines were taken from that, and we were able to build the new boats. So we have, over 85 copies of this boat. And that's in Rockport Harbor at the Rockport Apprentice Shop, which is since moved to Rockland, building the first 2 boats. And in fact, my dad was there in the late 80s, and I was also there as a little kid, and it was one of the first boats I ever rowed and sailed in as a 5- and 6-year-old. But I wasn't into it until I actually got to row. But I think it must have left an impression. That's the first launching. And right now the Liberté, so all of the boats have French names to honor the French heritage of the boat. Liberté is currently being restored, and hopefully she's going to come to Belfast next summer too. Yeah, they have 3 masts. The mast can be raised and lowered. And they have 10 oars, so you can transition between rowing and sailing within 30 seconds. That's again at the old Rockport Apprentice Shop. That's the first race between France and the US. In New York City, there was a big seamanship event there, a tall ship event, and they joined the party. Yeah, I love this just because it shows all the different flags of the different teams that now participate. So now approximately 300 young people from different teams will gather for this contest. So in 2024, you can expect this many people to be here, and we'll have a big parade through town. And hopefully there'll be lots of interaction between the public and our youth international participants. Oops. This is the contest in Rockland in 2002. Sometimes spontaneous gatherings of young people. If there's no wind, this is just what happens when you get young people together. It's like they didn't finish the sailing race and all the boats sort of drifted together and they had a water fight and just were playful. And you always see that happening. I love it that you don't take it too seriously. It is a friendly competition. Some people do take it seriously though. This is the Indonesian team. I just put this up here because, you know, they're the farthest, they come the farthest, and it really took a lot of effort on Lance's part to get countries more farther afield like Russia, Ukraine, and Indonesia involved, and a lot of relationship building. I really admire their model of how they do it though. They're all engineering students at a university, and part of their curriculum includes building a Bantry Bay gig and then finding sponsors, getting it shipped through the contest. And usually they ship it one way and then sell it or lease it to another nation nearby that can use it to jumpstart their program. And they did that. There is an Indonesian built gig now in Lithuania, which started a new program there. I went to train that team in Lithuania and in Ukraine. And each team, you know, to become a member nation, they have to build their own boat. And so in Indonesia, they have lots of mahogany and teak available, less so oak and cedar. So they use what they have. And then they also are incredible. They have an incredible tradition of carving. And so their boats are really ornately decorated. And yeah, this is the Russian and American collaboration when it was still the Soviet Union. In about 1990, Lance received a letter from a seamanship club in Leningrad, and they heard about the apprentice shop, and they asked if he would help them figure out how to build an apprentice shop. And he decided to go there and did help them. They got the Timber Framers Guild to go and help build the beautiful timber frame in the apprentice shop. And he invited 2 apprentices, young 18-year-olds from Russia, to come to Maine and spend 2 years learning to build boats here including this boat, the Bantry Bay gig, which was built by Americans and Russians in Maine. And now those two people who were 18, 20, they've maintained a program in Russia and have built over 6 gigs, and including some beautiful tall ships. They have a pretty thriving, robust program now. And they, in 2014, joined with the Ukrainian team to make one team with flying both flags. They're 100% anti-war and want to be involved, but the borders are closed for them. And yeah, so this boat, Community, we gave it to Denmark a couple years ago to help jumpstart their program. So that's sort of the spirit. I joined the Russian team in 2002. I'm in that boat with that crew. The short hair, you can't really tell, but they didn't have enough people they weren't able to bring their whole team. It was just very expensive to fly everybody from Russia to Maine. So they just had the invitation, if anyone from the US wanted to join, and I did. And it inspired me to learn Russian the next year and go live with them for 6 months the following year. And this is their training base at an old military fortress outside of St. Petersburg. And I felt like, even though there was some language barriers, once you're working together in a boat, all of the differences sort of dissolve and you're just people working together and the bonds form. And I feel like they're my friends for life after that experience. All right, now I'm gonna share you a new screen. Possibly. Oh yeah, cool. This is a short video. It just shows Lance, and it shows the boat sailing and during the contest, and it also has Lance speaking. So I will just share that now. It's a short 2-minute clip.
In boating, to experience and to learn are almost an end in themselves. And there's more than the lessons of nature, of adventure, of vividness, of beauty to be found. There are also classes like this one making a Bantry Bay gig go. The boat as a social device, the basic idea of a worldwide youth project initiated by Lance Lee back in the 1980s.
The boat is just a boat. It's just a boat. But Han and Bernard Cadaret and I believe that they are very perfect means or vehicles or devices to make citizens. And so you make demands, and these boats are difficult to sail. They are very difficult to tack. And when they are being run very, very well, there are many small tricks and timing and judgment. And that is how we think we make citizens. The captain or coxswain has the best job because it is the most difficult. And he or she is in charge of all of the community of each kid in the boat, not simply conducting or maneuvering or steering the vessel itself. And when you have 10 or 12 or 15 or 16 boats, and they are all moving at the same time, they are moving emotionally, which I think is very important to the crews, to make people moving harmoniously is a high plus, and moving all together in a fleet is a higher plus. And then the ideal is to have those of many different countries all working together. And if they all work together, you have harmony. And to begin with, they may not have harmony, but that is what the boats are for.
And together.
Young crews from many countries first learn to build the boat and then to handle it with 12 to 14 people, rowing and sailing. We might all have different reasons for running the oars out and in again, or to set our sails. We all might have different hopes, different styles and different outlooks. Sometimes the dreams might...
Above any realistic
All right.
fulfillment.
Did I stop it? Okay. Yay. Yeah, one of the events, there's 10 different events, and one of them, they intentionally mix the crews. So there might be 4 different nations in one boat, and language barriers, and that's intentional. So you have to work with, you get to know kids and crew members from other countries for 1 or 2 of the events. All right, let me show you some more photos. And I have to press share. And I think full screen. All right, how does that look? Can you see the full picture?
Yes, I can. We can.
Cool. Great. So yeah, wanted to show you what the contest looks like. So you can imagine it in Belfast, and tell you what the different seamanship events are that we test the different teams in and what that looks like. So this is all the boats rafted up together and all of the crews, and it's just a beautiful, colorful, lively scene. And they're all just getting ready to go out and leave the harbor to have a race. And this was, that was in at the last contest that we were involved, that any team was involved with in 2018 in Northern Ireland. And this one was a throwback to Rockland, 2002. And so there is a sailing race, which is a triangle, and the boats do not have any centerboards or keels, so they're very difficult to move upwind. There's a lot of weight shifting forward and aft, and you can pull out an oar to help you get through the wind. And it's all about trying to minimize how it's pretty tricky and to tack these boats and to maneuver upwind. So the triangle course, the upwind leg is a 1/4 mile, and the 2 other legs are a full mile. That's hard. And this is clearly going downwind and just cruising. Another race that we have is the slalom. This is the American team. We won this event. This was in France in 2014, where you row through, you're racing against one other boat, and you're rowing through 5 buoys, which are about 30 feet away, placed 30 feet apart, and you have no rudder, and the coxswain is just steering the boat with the oars. And you have to go through those buoys, turn around, go through them again, race to the finish as quickly as you can. And there are penalties for hitting the buoys, not getting, or if you're too slow, you end up at the bottom. Our secret strategy, I know this is being recorded, but our secret strategy is to slow down at the turn. And a lot of other teams are just going so fast the whole time, and we just slow down at the turn. And we usually win this event. So Now other teams are gonna know. Then we have a 2-mile straight rowing race. We have yet to win this, but now that Wes Reddick is helping us with our oars, I'll tell you more about him. He helped us reduce the weight of our oars, so maybe we'll become better rowers. Yeah, this is the Irish and the Russians, and they're usually at the top of the fleet. And it's just a 2-mile straight rowing race. And I don't know, it really depends like from year to year and contest to contest, because each location provides different conditions, whether there's a lot of current or wind or, yeah. It's another boat during the sailing race. More boats rounding a mark probably. And they do get very close to each other, but if you touch or hit you, there's a penalty where the sails are dropped for a minute as the penalty. And you get behind in the race if you happen to bump into another boat. This is in Bantry, Ireland, where the contest was in 2012, looks like finishing a sailing race. I just love how they look. They're just so beautiful. And all of the colors of the sails that are chosen, those are all various takes on a traditional colors, tan bark or white. That's the American team. Having the contest be in each different, in a new place each time, there's so much different weather. We don't always know what to expect, but this was in Ireland, so it was very windy and rainy and wet. That sort of shows an action shot of how the sails are moved from one side to the other. Oh yeah, and so another race is the oars and sails race, where you row upwind about a mile, and then you need to get all the oars put away and the mast up and the sails up and sail the other 2 legs of the triangle course, and then transition back to rowing. So this is a rounding of a mark and about to transition to rowing. It can be a real cluster with boats careening along and then suddenly pausing completely, no power, to get the oars out and start rowing. And this is that moment where this team, the Russians, were lowering their masts and trying to get their oars out quickly before another boat comes up close to them. And you can see they've transitioned to rowing, where there's another boat still coming around to lower their sails. And then you row like heck upwind and do it again. This just shows there isn't a mast broken or anything. This just shows this team doing good seamanship by reducing sail in heavy wind. So with 3 sails, we have a lot of flexibility for how much sail you have up with big weather. So you can just take a full mast and sail down. It's possible that they did break a mast, but yeah, that's double reefed and trying to reduce as much sail as possible to keep everybody safe. And one of the trophies that you can get is best seamanship, which is just throughout the week practicing sensible behavior like this, like reefing, and not just having all of your sail up and risking breaking your equipment. This is in the stern where, yeah, it's just a great action shot of what the crew looks like working together. Another event is called the Captain's Gig. This is the American team in 2018. Edith Galler was on the team, and she's the coxswain there. And this is a style event where you row up to a dock. You don't have any fenders. There are 2 people on board that hold on to the dock with boat hooks. And you just have to do it quietly, smoothly, and perfectly. And you invite a dignitary, could be any of you if you volunteered for that role. We always looking for a few more dignitaries. Come aboard and get delivered to another dock or a ship anchored in the harbor. And if you do it very smoothly and efficiently, you can win. And we did win, but I think it's also because Edith serenaded them and was singing to the captain and the crew while we were rowing. Another event we practiced a couple summers ago here in Belfast on the footbridge is called the Jack Stay Transfer. It's one of the more complicated events where you have to anchor about 10 meters off of a pier, or in this case, the bridge, the footbridge, and hold your position with oars only. And then you throw a monkey's fist that's connected to a line to the shore or to someone on the bridge, raise up the mast, and then tighten the line between the top of the mast and the bridge and transfer a package. There's just so many details in this event that it can go horribly right, wonderfully right or horribly wrong. It really puts all of the pieces of seamanship together, though, anchoring and managing the crew with currents and getting some knots tied and transferring the package and everything. And once the package has been transferred, all of that, the mast goes down, oars go out, anchor comes up, and they race to the finish. It's really, really fun to watch and really stressful to participate in. This is just it happening in action. There's a knot tying contest. And yeah, there's like about 8 or 10 knots that the crews have to know and demonstrate. And this is just a spontaneous gathering between, it looks like the US and the Canadian team. You see this all the time where they like raft up and make one boat and one set of oars on either side and row in together. And it's just good spirit. And yeah, that's in France and all of the boat. Since it's a French boat, in the mid-90s, there was a campaign in France where there were like 40 Bantry Bay gigs built. It was like a campaign, one for every town or one for every village. And so they have so many, and they, beyond the Atlantic Challenge Contest of Seamanship, they also host additional events. The Jean Marin, Défi Jean Marin, and that is what this is, because we don't usually gather that many for Atlantic Challenge. All right, let me get you some more slides. Did I? Okay. Try again. And all right, so to prepare our crews for being part of the Atlantic Challenge contest, we host training programs. Before the contest, we'll train for 2.5 weeks on Greens Island, which is next to Vilehaven. And Lance Lee has a property there, and he has lent it to us to train our teams on for as long as the contest has been around, very generously. And yeah, so this was perhaps last summer or the summer before, since I'll explain more about other programs that we do besides training for just the contest, but this is what it looks like. The goal of the training is to create as much unity and trust in the team as quickly as possible, so that when they are faced with challenges and distractions, being among other boats and other people and spectators, they can rely on the team support and know that they can trust their crew. So we don't have any phones to distract us, and we have a pretty regimented structure, and I'll show you more about that here. This is us just offloading all our gear for the week, and yes, there's lots of musical people that are part of the team now, which is lovely. This is our gathering place in the Western Shore where we eat and relax. And this is a boathouse. And one of the first things we do during a training is we typically assemble this difficult ramp that's all in different pieces. And it's like the first big team building effort. Build the ramp and then launch this 2,000 pound boat with a crew of novices. And after we've done that, they're really invested. It's a good exercise. We start the morning for our training with a morning row before breakfast, just to wake up and get that rhythm deeply ingrained in everyone's bodies. It's just a light row, and after a few days, their form and the synchronicity of the rowing really locks in. Doesn't take much time, actually. We get in the water every day. It's cold, and we do that not only to wake up, but well, part of it is like personal challenge, and no one's forced to, it's just highly encouraged. But also, since we're on the water, operating on the water, we want to make sure everyone knows what the water feels like, and you slowly acclimate to that temperature after a few days, so that if we were to capsize or fall in, they would know how to respond. This is typical mealtime. We have a hired cook, and part of the success of the program is everyone rotates through helping with various tasks. I think that's a key part of building that trust and unity in the group, is everyone is given a job that rotates. So your cooks help one day, you help with the dishes another day, you help haul water, and that you help tend the boats. That act of service for each other, and knowing that everyone is helping with that, it creates a nice culture. And yeah, it's really important. This is the cabin that we use for mostly a dry place to gather and for cooking. And Lance built it in 1969 with driftwood timbers that had washed up on the beach. And he kind of built a timber frame structure out of that. Still standing, it just heels to starboard by 10 degrees. It says one of the tasks is hauling water from a well. And so it's a mix of training in the boats, eating, sleeping, relaxing, and doing some chores just to keep the camp running without electricity. And I think that's what helps bond the people. And the southern part of like Vinyl Haven, Greens Island, the granite rocks are just so beautiful. And that's what it looks like. This was probably a navigation challenge. That's another race that we do. And of course, there's some exploration. Another race is the passage race, where you have a longer distance to travel maybe 5 miles, and you have to decide whether to row or sail at any moment. Part of it, our training is also whenever we can do some service, community service, we do. This is helping our neighbor on the island carry some timbers that he fell for a new dock. And practicing splicing and playing tunes, because that's what we do these days. And playing tunes in the boat is really becoming very fun. The boats create a beautiful rhythm. I'm going to show you a video of what that sounds like. And it's fun to sing against and to play tunes against when you have the fiddlers. And this is just like a fun contra dance, spontaneous contra dance that we had. So we're also hosting some non-contest related programs this summer. Some are for all ages and some are for youth. So the all ages programs are going to Greens Island, using these 2 boats, camping in it, sort of exploring the local area and doing all of the things we normally do in a contest training, but without the competitive side of things. And it's very fun, and you're all welcome to join. Okay, I'm going to show you something else. Let's find out what that will be. We're almost done. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I abandoned all my notes too, that's okay. Go here. Yeah, one of the elements of Atlantic Challenge, besides learning to row and sail and navigate tie knots, is to also work to maintain our boats, build new oars, build new boats if we need to, and become skilled and competent in that way as well. Yeah, so we get volunteers together to make repairs and just keep up our boats. And we like to keep that with our increasingly more automated world that we're living in and more virtual world that we live in. Anytime that we can teach skills in the physical world and maintaining your own stuff and working with wood and tools and in community, it's something that we value. Fortunately, we have a local oar builder in Belfast, Wes Reddick, who graciously assisted us this past spring in redesigning our oars. They were each about 10 pounds heavier prior to Wes's guidance, and we shaved away 10 pounds of wood off of each oar and made them a better shape. So they're a lot easier to row, but still strong, and we are just way more efficient. It's incredible how different it is. So this was just a volunteer party. We did about 10 workshops last spring, and we're going to do that again this spring. If anyone's interested in being part of that, and we're going to build, instead of shaping our old oars, we've shaped 20 old oars. We're going to build new oars this spring. And there he is, Wes Reddick, a wonderful coxswain for come boating and a really great oar building teacher. We like to include craft hand tools, all of that whenever we can. So one of our programs, it's a 4-day program, is intentionally a craft and boating program. So it's all ages, anyone can join. And this year we chose to do book binding in addition to rowing and sailing. And that's where it will be, in Edgecombe, Maine, at this boathouse. And we'll be camping and also using this space to do our craft. We did this craft last summer, which was a traditional design from Scandinavia, birch bark, watertight boxes that you could store tea or salt in. And we did, yeah, there's another photo. We've done that a couple of times. Another new program we're offering this summer, non-contest related, is we're going to take a quick trip down to the Chesapeake Bay to Maryland, and sail the traditional Chesapeake Bay log canoes there. We think there's a lot of crossover between the Bantry Bay gigs and these boats, and one of our instructors grew up sailing these boats, so she's hosting this program. We're partnering with her, and yeah, you can see that they're quite thrilling. So if you want to know more about that, you can get in touch or come join us. It's hard to leave Maine in the summer, but the water will be warm. And that's what they look like. They're very shallow, drafted boats with lots and lots of sail. And they used to use them for oystering and racing the catch quickly to port before the other boats. And now they're used for racing. Yeah, this is another boat we can use while we're in Maryland, and that's where we're going to stay. One of our other expeditions this summer is we periodically do an expedition, all ages again, and camp on several islands. This picture is from when we did an expedition in the Machias area, and we're going to do an expedition around Vinyl Haven, camping on several islands this summer. Anyone can join. And that's a picture of our boats outside of Belfast City Park, I believe, doing a practice race. And we also are going to host a week-long contest training for young people to come and learn all of the events this summer in preparation for next. So if you know anyone who you think might want to do that, who's in between the ages of 14 or 15 and mid-20s, send them my way. All right, I'm going to show you one more thing. All right. One of our other programs is we have 2 weeks, 2 separate weeks. There's a week in June and a week in July called Community Week. And since we have so many wonderful musicians now, there's going to be an emphasis on music. And you'll see, I'm going to show you a clip, but you can learn some wonderful songs to sing while you row. It's just the best. And I'll show you what that looks like.
2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 all on the bull in the bowling hole. 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 On the bowling, can't you hear me calling? On the bull in the bowling hole. On the bowling, can't you hear me bawling?
So that will give you an idea. Those musicians that were singing the boat are also part of our staff and help lead the song. So even if you don't sing well, you are in an experience where it sounds really good. Yeah, it's very fun. And let's see, I want to show you one more. The last thing. Oh yeah. This is sort of, I have this photo up on my wall because this is like my dreamscape for the future for Belfast and ports beyond, just a thriving waterfront. This is at an Atlantic Challenge event in Douarnenez, France in the late 80s. And I just love it. It inspires me, like, how can we create even more access to the water for our community? I'm thrilled that Comboting exists and Atlantic Challenge exists and the apprentice shop and the schooner culture. We live in a place that's so rich in traditional boats and access to the water and pride of the water and knowledge of the water and working together. And I'd like to see more of this. I want to build more boats. I want to get a youth sailing program started in Belfast. There's just a lot more that I hope that we can do. Hopefully this contest will help inspire more efforts in that direction. And I'm going to leave you with one favorite quote by a boat builder named John Gardner, who's long gone now, but he was from Maine. Building and using a small wooden boat helps wonderfully to reestablish and strengthen connections with the natural world that so many of us have lost or are in increasing danger of losing. Wind and water have not changed, and the age-old workings and needs of the human body and psyche remain the same and cry for expression and fulfillment in the cold world of artificial abstractions and flickering images. I think the community of Comboting and my community for Atlantic Challenge and the apprentice shop and any crafts person that you know, we're kind of holding on to a precious thing, which is living in the physical world and being a capability steward in the physical world rather than a spectator and rather than defaulting to the computer or to handle everything. It's seemed like a dying art to like be in community and be boat building or be sailing together. And it's just something that I want the future generations and the current generations to continue to know, because it builds, you know, self-confidence and connection and can strengthen our community more. And yeah, that's what it's all about. So I am ready to take your questions.
All right, Arista, thank you. Before we get to the questions, can you give some contact information? A couple of the questions were about how to stay best in touch and know more about the opportunities.
Okay, great. Maybe I'll write it in the chat. Our website, we are, let's see, one place that you can get in touch is through our website, atlanticchallengeUSA.com. And you can also email me. There's going to be lots of need for volunteers for the upcoming contest. Yeah, there's so many logistics happening. And in addition, we're hosting in April about 12 international Atlantic Challenge reps who are coming here to get the lay of the land and see Belfast. And all of them are going to be staying at different community members' homes. So there's little tasks to do if you want to help make food or, yeah, there's so many little things to do. Help manage the race, collect things for the races. we can talk more. We have about a monthly meeting, monthly or every 2 monthly meeting of about 6 to 10 people from the community who want to be involved and help planning that. And you're welcome to join the party.
So the website, you're going to put it in the chat, but what is it? AtlanticChallenge.com or something like that?
Yeah, Atlantic Challenge USA.
Okay. Okay, great. And all the information's there, right?
Yeah, everything, most of what you want to know. Yeah.
All right. So now I'm going to get to a few questions. There are a lot of comments, which I'm not necessarily going to get to all the comments, but I'll send them to you. So early on, Mickey asked why the French names for the boats when the design of the boat is Irish.
It's actually a French design, but it was a French boat that was captured during a war in Ireland, in Bantry, Ireland, and it was preserved there. So now it's called the Bantry Bay Gig, but in fact it's French.
Okay. So I don't know if you're looking at the questions too, but I will read them. So somebody asked early on, do all the boats have whisker poles like Community?
They have a boomkin, which sticks out the stern and holds up a little mizzen sail. That's the little one off the stern. And they don't have whisker poles, so there's just a yard at the top of the sail. And they're loose-footed, so no boom below. And if we need a whisker pole to like hold out the sail to go downwind, we just use an oar.
Okay. Mickey had a comment, maybe extend the program to include older adults because we're much fitter these days, but you then since mentioned a lot of opportunities that you also do, but.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Exactly. We have all ages, and we do have all ages. We've had our community weeks and our August expedition and our bookbinding is all ages 14 and up. And I think right now our oldest participant is 60. So
cool.
If you can do it, please come.
I actually have a question that I didn't put in the chat. How do you select who are your team members for the races? Like, how do you select your team?
Anyone can sign up to do it. And if there's a lot of people who want to do it and I have to choose, usually I don't have to choose and everybody can come. I just interview them. Do you want to be part of a team? Are you willing to try new things? And if they have the right spirit and mindset, then they're on. If they haven't, they don't necessarily need to have rowed or sailed before. I just want them to be willing and game to be part of a team and a new experience.
Oh, okay, cool. And it's just one boat per country, or?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to be lending out one of our extra boats to other teams because it's very expensive to ship the boats. That's what's going to happen is some teams are going to ship their boats to Belfast in a container. And it's better if they can borrow from, say, Quebec, or the Toronto team has extra boats and we have an extra boat. That's better for everybody.
Okay. Thanks. Somebody asked, who's boathouse for the bookbinding event this summer?
That's the artist who's teaching the bookbinding, and her information is up on the website.
Yeah. So also a question about, does it cost anything to join, like the team members? Do they have to pay to do it?
Yeah, it does cost, just so that we can pay the staff and food and everything. And we do a sliding scale tuition rate so that it's more accessible to a wide range of people. And we also offer financial aid in addition to the sliding scale if that's necessary. And I do a lot of fundraising throughout the year to help fund scholarships.
Great. There's so many comments. I'm just trying to find the questions. Oh, everybody seems to be really excited about this coming to Belfast. Of course, why not? It sounds so exciting. And where, like when you're planning the races, will they all be like really close to Belfast so people can see from the shore?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. So the footbridge, the inner harbor, and City Park will be our zones, so that would be very spectator friendly.
That's great. Cool. And one more question. How long a commitment is it to be on the team?
Yeah, it's pretty much the month of July, like the 2 weeks prior and 2.5 weeks prior, and then the 9 days of contest.
But don't they train for more than that?
We train just about 2.5 weeks prior to the event.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. It's better if we, that's why it's better if people who want to be part of the team can also come this summer for a week and get some preparation. And we're growing interested people, more interest in Belfast. So maybe we can practice more with a local team, because we end up bringing people from all over the US who want to do it. And since we're in Belfast, we have more interest here. Hopefully we can create a local team and practice more often.
Great. Well, does anybody else have another question? You can unmute yourself to ask a question if there are more questions. There has to be another question. I don't see anybody ask.
Yeah, hi, Arista. Jeffrey.
Hi, Jeffrey.
I put in the comment, I was hoping you would end with dip and sway.
Oh,
that was a comment, not a question, Jeffrey.
Do you know how to access it on our website?
Yeah, I have it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I know. LC magic. Yeah.
So I have a grandson who's starting to row for a high school team, starting to do crew high school team. I'm sure he would be interested. So should I just email you about the particulars about that?
Yes, please. Thank you. Thanks for being willing to reach out to him.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. The help you were giving to people on Greens Island, was that Maynard Bray or somebody else?
Is that Dave too?
Yeah, it is.
Hi. That's Mark Jackson, the Jackson family. Do you know him?
No, I don't. Were they further somewhere else on the island?
They live right next to Lance's property. They homeschooled their kids out there. So that was probably like 45 years ago that they moved there.
Wow.
Without electricity as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Mark was the first one to make a Silly Isle gig with the high school kids.
That's right.
And I went out there to visit because we were rowing, Cumboden was rowing the Bantry Bay gigs. And I went out there to try out their silly gigs and just was so overwhelmed with how wonderful it was. Because we had high school kids rowing on the Bantry Bays. It was just those oars are so heavy. So that's when we took a team out and we rowed another boat that was out there. I think it was the Vinyl Haven boat. Anyway, we just got so excited because they were so fast. And wonderful.
Yeah, it's so great too. They both, both the Silly Isle, the Cornish Pilot gigs and the Bantry Bay gigs, they both are wonderful in their own ways. I love how light and fast those Cornish Pilot gigs go though. They're really fun.
Mickey, did you have a question? Mickey?
I was going to say that there are YouTubes of the Cornish Pilot gigs that are pretty amazing.
Yeah, and the Belfast cruise are just amazing too to watch.
My comment is that the whole premise of the Atlantic Challenge is just incredible, and I'm an old fart, and it's just like, why can't we make this? Can we extend it to where older people, my people, can be included, or other programs where we bring people from other nations and nations that we might never ever get to come together like this. I just think that what you're doing is just so amazing. It's extraordinary. And thank you so much. And we all want to do this.
Yay, thank you, Mickey. Well, why not? Let's do it. We can organize something.
Yeah.
And maybe even during the contest, there could be moments where, or right after the contest, right before, there could be some moments where the boats are available to try.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Arista and Brenda, thank you so much for making this presentation accessible to all of us. Arista, this was, I think what you're doing is extraordinary. And Brenda, you've been such a great friend to Come Boating. This is our last presentation for the winter series. And you are just, the way that you help us and promote us and make all of this available to everybody is just wonderful. And thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I'm very excited about the Atlantic Challenge coming to Belfast. I think it's just going to be super. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks, Brenda, for hosting us multiple times in the Abbott room and just being very willing to support us. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's all about community.
It really is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Arista. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.